Uh, okay, this isn't a regular video. Obviously I'm still home. I'm gonna put this video out. I'm probably gonna try to record another video right after this to really to just put out my weekly video. But I wanted to put out this video because yesterday was the 20th anniversary of 9/11. I'm gonna fidget because I'm nervous about talking about this. I don't like talking about it. I generally don't think about it. I don't like to talk about it. But I saw a video on TikTok today of a girl who did like a 4-part series, and she was telling everybody her story as far as 9/11 was concerned. She made the comment that she understood that she is now a part of the generation, or she is old enough now that she's a part of the generation that needs to start telling their story in regards to where they were on 9/11 and what they felt and how what the experience was like for them. And one of the reasons that I made the video on TikTok was because I have seen people, not necessarily on TikTok, but I've seen people in the last couple years that don't seem to understand 9/11 and the importance of 9/11 for those of us that lived through it, and why it's important not to forget. It's kind of like Pearl Harbor. You know, every year, December 7th, 1941, or at least December 7th, I remember Pearl Harbor every year because I feel like it's, now that I've experienced something like that, I feel like it's important to remember Pearl Harbor as well. So, I have a member of my family who made a comment one time about how they didn't understand the importance of 9/11, and this person was not old enough at the time to remember 9/11. She may not be old enough now, but she certainly wasn't old enough at the time to remember 9/11. She's fairly younger than I am, and it kind of irks me a little bit. So I think this person is right. I saw another TikTok where a teacher was talking about having to teach her kids about 9/11, and they were wanting the principal was wanting her to tell the kids about 9/11. So I think it is important for my generation to tell that story. I've told the story to friends. I've told the story to family members. I've told the story to that's pretty much it. Friends and family. You know, we'll sit there and swap our stories about where we were and when it happened and everything. And I don't remember everybody's story, and I'm certain that nobody really remembers mine. But for posterity and for my nephews and the younger generation in my family, I think it's important I put this down on video. So, after talking for 3 minutes and trying to tell you how important I think this is, I'm going to go ahead and probably just start telling you. I was asleep when it started. At the time, we were... I was not working. I was 19. I was not working. I was living at home with my mother and my brother and my sister still. My sister was 17 at the time. My brother would have been 14. There are certain things I know about history. Most people don't know that the Empire State Building was hit by an airplane back in 1946 or 48 or 47 or 45, something. It was right after the war. That's all I remember. And I read about it somewhere in the history books, and I read about it before and knew about it before 9/11 happened. But hadn't really paid much attention to it. I didn't grow up in the best household. We weren't necessarily structured in my house. And as such, I didn't have a job. My sister didn't have a job. My brother didn't have a job. Obviously, he was 14. But he was notorious for staying up really, really late at night and watching television until the wee hours of the morning. Very, very, sometimes he'd be up all night, and he says today that he has insomnia, and he probably does. But he would stay up all night watching TV, and he would watch stuff on Channel 13. And so the morning of 9/11, you go to sleep on the 10th, and everything's fine. The world is a different place. And the morning of 9/11, I was asleep in my bed. My brother comes running in, tells me that a plane has hit a building in New York City. I'm like, which building? And I feel like he's coming in. I thought he was coming in to tell me about the B-25 that had hit the Empire State Building back in like the 1940s. And he was just excited. He wanted to share something with me or something like that. And of course, I'm asleep. I don't really want to talk about that and everything. And so he tells me that no, it's today. And I said, it's not today. It didn't happen today. So he goes away, and he apparently had gone and woken up my sister. And my sister got up and went to go watch it on the news, because this was a big deal. A plane has hit the Twin Towers, or one of the towers in New York City. So my sister told her story recently, and she was awake and watching the TV when the second plane hit the World Trade Center. I had forgotten that she had a friend from our church's youth group that was on that plane. And I didn't know him, but my sister apparently knew him very well. And so she watched her friend die, basically, on the plane. When that happened, my sister came. Now, she didn't know that the friend was on the plane at the time. She found out later. But when the second plane hit the tower, my sister came and woke me up. And I had a TV in my room, and so she turned it on, and she starts playing the news, turns it to the news. And here are, like, I think she turned it on, and at the time she turned it on, I think there's a hole in one building, smoke coming out of another building, and then you see the video. I think she turned it on, and they showed the video almost right away of the second plane hitting the tower, the second tower. And the first thing that went through my mind was that we're under attack. There's no other explanation for that. Two planes, two buildings that close together, somebody's doing it deliberately. There's nothing else you could say. And so I got up, got dressed. Wasn't going to go anywhere that day, but got up, got dressed. We lived 30 or 40 miles south of, lived about 30 miles south of downtown Dallas, kind of out in the country a little bit at that time. And so I wasn't really worried about whether or not they were going to hit the house, but I was certainly worried about whether or not they were going to hit Dallas. And I remember the news saying that they didn't know how many planes were in, there were too many planes in the sky. And there were planes that they couldn't get a hold of that were heading to Dallas and to Boston and to Chicago and to Los Angeles and to San Francisco, and I think Seattle was one of them, but definitely Dallas. And there was one plane they could not get a hold of that was heading for Dallas, and so they started evacuating buildings in downtown Dallas. And I remember the local news showing police cars racing through town and people like running out of buildings with their stuff and trying to and looking up at the sky as they try to get out and everything. And it was surreal. It was like an A-bomb. Like we knew that we there was a nuclear bomb coming for that town, and I just I didn't know what was going to happen. And so we watched, and then about a little while later, about an hour I want to say, there were reports that a plane had hit the Pentagon, and there was no doubt at that point. If you doubted that it was, if you questioned whether or not it was an accident or if it was still an accident, up until that point, you didn't question it after that. And then we watched. They played the thing on live TV. TV back then wasn't like it is now. The things that we watch were we stream all of our stuff. I stream the news. I watch the news every night on YouTube because NBC is kind enough to put the news on YouTube every night. And of course, it's whatever they want to play, but it's the news, and I can watch it if I need to. And so that helps out a lot, because sometimes you're going to be driving during the news as far as truck driving is concerned, or you're not going to be able to get home. And so now I can get, I can come home, I can sit down in front of the computer, the TV, I can pull it up on YouTube, and I can stream the news at my leisure. And the world didn't work that way on 9/11. This thing that they have now with TV, where they can censor it if they need to, which is it's standard practice now to delay the broadcast by like 7 seconds. It's live, but it's not. It's 7 seconds delayed. And that wasn't a thing that I think they could do at that time. So they went to live shots, this and that and this and that and this, and we saw everything live, from our house. And I remember sitting in the living room, and the buildings are on fire, and I started noticing that one of the buildings was leaning a little bit. And my mother thought I was crazy. My mother, by that point, is awake. My sister's like, I don't know, it's not leaning. I said, I think it's going to come down. It's leaning. It looked like it was leaning to me. And sure enough, the first tower fell. And up until that point, not only had the building been leaning, but we had been watching live on TV people choose whether to be burned alive or to fall to their death. And we saw it, and what we thought was paper floating away from the buildings was actually not paper. It was people. And I remember this one shot where the helicopter that was flying around the buildings, watching all this, like, focused in on what he thought was a piece of paper, and it wasn't a piece of paper, it was a man, like, with his arms out, just falling. And he pulled back real quick, but it was too late. We saw it. And we realized that at that point, they stopped focusing in on what was coming out of the buildings, because they realized that it was not paper, it was people that were coming out of the buildings. And so we got nothing but faraway shots from that point on. We watched as the first tower fell. It leaned, and then it just started to billow dust, and you could just see it just lean a little bit more and then just start going. And it was surreal. It was unreal. I'm 1,600 miles away from where that happened, and it was unreal to watch it and knowing that it was actually happening. And then the TikTok with the teacher said that she thought it was important, or they thought it was important, to talk about Flight 93, and it is. Between the two towers falling, I watched a video earlier about the memorial, and between the two towers falling, we found out about Flight 93. The terrorists were trying to take out, trying to put a dent in our economy, trying to put a dent in our military, and their attempt with the fourth plane, at least, was to try to take out the Capitol and put a dent in our democracy, which we've done a fine job over the last 20 years of doing that ourselves. But the people on Flight 93 took it upon themselves. They somehow knew. I seem to recall in the story that they had called home and somebody had told them what was going on, and they realized that they were heading for something, and they had to take the plane down. And then that's the saying, "Let's roll." It's so big in America now, because one of the guys, the last thing he said on the phone, he was talking to his wife, and the last thing he said on the phone was, "Honey, I gotta go. We gotta go stop this this plane. I don't know what's going to happen, but I love you. And then he turned to the other people and said, let's roll. And the phone hung up. And they did. They took the plane down. It crashed in a field in Pennsylvania. And there's a big memorial out there now. It's a national park, what I heard today. And I've never been to it, never seen it. Haven't been to New York City to see the memorial there. Haven't been to the Pentagon to see the memorial there. Would like to go someday. But that was it. And then they grounded everything. Every plane in America was down. And there were no flights available in America or to come to America at all for 4 days. And it was the quietest I've ever heard the skies to this day. I've never been anywhere that was that quiet. Anywhere. I think you get used to the sounds of airplanes, but it was quiet. And my brother and sister and I figured out how to climb up on the roof of the house, and I watched the news for 2 days straight and didn't sleep. I couldn't sleep because of everything I'd seen. And I stayed up for 48 hours, and I finally crashed on the second day because I was wanting to do something, anything, to try to help out, to try to go and help to change the world in some way. And there was nothing I could do. I was, we didn't have money. I couldn't afford a ticket to New York City to go pick through rubble. How was I going to live? How was I going to eat? How was I going to work? And I probably could have just gone and somebody would have put me up and fed me and all that other stuff, but I didn't know that. So I racked my brain for 2 days trying to figure out how to go to New York City and help. And the word that finally came back to me was that I would only be in the way. So I didn't go. And I wish I could have gone. To this day, I wish I could have gone and helped. And I couldn't go. So I remember, sorry, allergies. You're gonna go, no, you're crying. No, it's allergies. I'm really trying to keep it back, but that one's allergies. I remember 4 days later, they let the first flight come out of San Antonio, going Indiana or Pennsylvania or Ohio, or I don't remember where the first flight went, but it came out of Austin or San Antonio, and I want to say it was San Antonio. And I was absolutely sure that they were going to fly over us, our house. So about 45 minutes after the plane took off, it was a cool night. It was a very nice day, cool evening. I went out with my brother and sister up on the roof, and we laid on the roof and we talked about what was coming and who was going to go where and how it was going to happen, and about war. And about 45 minutes after the plane took off from San Antonio, there it came, sailing over the house. And it was the first commercial flight. It was the first plane we'd seen in 4 days. And I'm not real big into planes, but it was the first plane we'd seen in 4 days. And life never really returned to normal after that. It sort of did. I mean, we went back to work. We went back to school. There was this patriotism in the country that I'd never seen before. It made me feel like we were living sort of like in the 1940s during the World War II, when everybody came together and rationed food and took care of one another and only spent the gasoline that they needed to spend and everything. And we didn't have to do any of that, but there was this patriotism. American flags went up in every single yard that could afford American flag. We couldn't afford American flags, so we didn't put any up. But everybody that could put one up did put one up. And it was a very patriotic time for about a year after that, maybe 2 years after that, and then, but yeah, that's my story. You know, I'm never gonna forget what I saw that day. I'm never gonna stop thinking about it. You know, every year it comes around, and I know it's coming. I knew it was coming this time. Same as anybody else, and you count the years. You know, my father, I don't tell a lot of people this, I don't advertise it, but I think it's makes sense to tell it. My father was killed at work by a coworker. My father was murdered. And every year, I know how many years it's been since my father was killed. He was killed in 88. He was killed February 18th, 1988. And I do the math every single year. You know? And in 18 it was 30 years. And it was 31 years. It's been 33 years since my dad was killed at work by a coworker. And every year I know how many years it is, and I remember what it was like waking up to that news. And it's like that. It is a lot like that. I count the years every year. I know it's coming. Same with my dad's death, day that my dad died. I know it's coming. And I it's been 19 years. It's been 18 years. It's been 20 years now. Long enough that an entire generation of children have been born and raised in a post 9/11 world, and they don't know about it. And they don't know how important it is to know about it. You know, we live in a really very divided country right now. I think people have forgotten how to sit down and discuss the issues with each other, and come to conclusions, you know, that benefit both sides. I think people have forgotten how to get anything else but their way, to compromise and say, well, I don't really like where you're at with this, but I can agree that, you know, I got to give a little to get a little bit of what I want. People want exactly what they want, you know, and they're not willing to give in and try to, you know, compromise at all. They want what they want, and then the other side wants what they want. And we're the most divided I've ever experienced in my lifetime. And I'm 39 years old. And I think it's important to tell this story for anybody that remembers it. My generation, the generation, I'm basically Gen X. I'm like real late Gen X. And I'm like right on the cusp. I'm like millennial and Gen X both. And I think I more identify with Gen X. So, there's the next generation, which is the millennials. They lived through it, and I think they're at the point now where, you know, they're old enough to have lived through it and remember it. And then there's the generation after them that doesn't, and they need to know. And now we have this. We have social media that gives us the ability to share that story with people. And I'm not out here trying to be an expert. I'm not out here trying to tell you what telling you that my opinion's the right opinion. There's way too many internet experts that exist in this world. But it's important for me to know that the youngest generation and generations beyond that can look at this video and millions of others like it, hopefully. I think there's going to be more. I think this is not, I think the 20-year anniversary has really kicked off something, because I'm seeing a lot of these videos today and yesterday, but it feels good to know that this video and so many other videos like it are going to be available for future generations, hopefully, to go back and understand from those that lived through it what it was like. This video is the equivalent of my grandfather, who was in World War II, sitting down in front of a camera and telling his story. He never would. I tried to get him to do it before he, passed away, but he never would. And but it's important for us to tell the story. So that's this video. I know it's a serious video. It's not funny. The one that will come out on Tuesday will be funny. I'll probably get ready to record it right after this, but I felt like this was important. I think that the people that I saw on TikTok talking about how important it was to get this out, I feel like that was necessary. So I appreciate you if you watched all the way through this. I appreciate you watching. I hope that this helps you understand 9/11 and the history of this country in the future, and that's it. So thanks for watching.